and welcome back to WAAAGH Taktiks. And we're back with the rise of the green tide as the orcs have risen once again as we predict these things, because like all things, the tide ebbs and flows and it will rise and fall. So today we will look at how the orc players are doing, how many there are, what the archetypes are running up, and if the prediction of everybody's going to run triple kill rigs is true. I'll give you a hint, kind of. So besides that, we're going to take a look at a couple players that did really well, give some shout outs for others. But of course, like always, let's start off with our sponsors, the Baron of Dice. Shout out to Baron of Dice for allowing us to do our pin competition. Check them out in the description, 5% off because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice for having WAAAGH Taktiks Dice. So hopefully you guys can pick those up, as it greatly helped the channels and allows us to do our pin competition, as you see on screen right now. But like always, let's get back to the stats and the facts. So we have Orcs sitting at a 48% win rate this weekend. I like that. Not too hot. You don't want to freak the meta out, and then GW starts slamming us again with mallets with little nerf bats. As you can see, we have a 50% win rate with Green Tide, but there was only 3 players, one of them going X and 1, which we actually are going to cover that list. Then we have Dreadmob with a 49% win rate and 9 players in that. I actually really like to see that. I'm under the impression that Dreadmob's extremely powerful, versatile, can play into everything, but it takes a lot of dice rolling, a lot of interactions, a lot of effort, and I think just running something like War Horde, as you can see next, is just a bit more direct and linear. And so in that case, you can see we have 23 War Horde players sitting at a 48% win rate, but 6 of those players going X and 1. 45% win rate on Bully Boys. We have 1 of those players going X and 1, and then 8 of those players being Bully Boys out of all the orcs, and then only 1 being in the hunt, getting a 40% win rate. Whoever that player is, shout out to you for playing the hunt, and shout out to our boy Tyler Howes. Let's go Green Tide. We've been referencing the pampering video a lot lately. First GT in November. Let's get it for the war. Yeah, dude, honestly, that's a really good video. Anything to do with combat interactions, how to swing boy units is huge when you're running Green Tide, how to tag things up, how to understand that you don't really have to always kill the enemy, right? And I'm really impressed with this orc list, and it kind of covered some of my predictions and I assume what happened with the Green Tide list with these changes. And I'll just give you guys a little hint right now. Thank you, Tyler, very much for this $10 generous donation. Whoa, for Tyler, it means a lot. But Tyler, I must say, there are a bunch of kill rigs in today's presentation. So let's not meander any further. Let's take a look at a couple of the players who actually did well. So a couple of successful war bosses I want to give shout out to that we're not going to go over their win paths, but in case you want to check them out, here's a nice little summary. We have Alex Burdendick from Rumble on the Rivers. He ended up going 4-1 with triple kill rig War Horde. We have Billy Guest with War Horde going 4-1. He used an actual Big Mech on foot with his list. Really cool. He did go 4-1. He lost his first game with the Tyranids. I've been saying a lot, guys. Tyranids are actually a rough matchup for orcs. Then we have Jensen Gosh with a 4-1 War Horde list as well, but he was running Zagra, right? So I'm giving you hints that not everybody ran triple kill rigs, but as you can see, we have Ryan Brown from Like on Dice Grand Tournament with the War Horde going 4-1. He as well ran triple kill rigs. So that's 2 players plus the one I'm going to cover today. 3 of the orc players that went 4-1 this weekend running triple kill rigs with their own different variations and caveats to this. And then we have Justin Fountain with Bully Boys going 4-1, but he had a Big Mech in Mega Armor. That's his one little caveat to his list. So shout out to those gits. But first, let's start with Steven Goodrich. And Steven Goodrich is actually in the chat. So shout out to Steven Goodrich. Whoa, Steven. So I actually have some notes from him. And so I might interact with him in chat right now to make sure we present these things clear and concisely as possible without rambling. So with his list, he was running triple kill rigs. So let's just get right off with this. The other leagues I'm going to cover are not going to be triple kill rigs. Don't worry if you're mad. I know some people don't like to hear the fact that there are a lot of triple kill rigs going on the field. You don't like to hear people spamming things. That's just competitive 40K. And when we're going to look at some of these rosters, these win paths and these team results, you're going to see that a lot of people are on teams and a lot of the teams are represented at the top of the events, meaning these guys get a lot of good reps. Not saying Steven is one of those guys, but that you're going to see that's why there's a lot of kill rigs. So if you're not looking to play in the upper echelons anyways, you don't have to worry about all the killing stuff, guys. Orcs are totally fine without spamming anything. You don't have to be mad at the meta that there's kill rigs that are good right now. Just be happy for orc players that we have a ton of variety, because I have hope for multiple detachments, and a lot of different factions don't have that. So I just wanted to say that before going forward, in case anybody's upset because they don't like to see triple rigs all over the table. But it is real, no joke, Tyler. So we have 3 beast bosses, a Gazgul Traka, 2 war bosses, and of course 3 beast snaggle boy units for those 3 beast bosses, 2 regular boy units, 2 trucks, 3 by 11 Gretchen. I like to see that he took advantage of all the Gretchen that he could get on the field. I think now more than ever you need them, especially when you're going so elite on this list with Steven's list, because he has the triple kill rigs, the triple beast boss, and the snaggas, but he still has elite bricks all over the field because he has a 3-man unit of Mega Knobs and then 2 Storm Boy units. So you can see it's just multiple big packages. War bosses with boys, Beast Snaggle boys with snaggas and the kill rigs, Gazgul on foot. I do like that he paid for the 3rd Mega Knob. I know sometimes it's just convenience if you could fit him on the list. But you can see he didn't just randomly start throwing enhancements on here. He understood the value in having a 3rd Mega Knob. And the value in that is that when you do shoot away the Mega Knob, you can then throw a grenade at Makari and annihilate him. And Makari is the focal point of the Gazgul unit, Gazgul Thraka point is the lethal aura. So you very much want to take care of him, and having the 3rd Mega Knob kind of helps you do that. Of course, if you can't afford them, it happens. And you do want to bring a coil saw and a power saw because you want to be able to choose what profile you're going into depending on the profile, because ultimately Gaz getting +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and you're getting sustained, and you're getting lethals on the wall. It's magnificent. It really helps those Mega Knobs punch up, even with their horrible weapon skill and low damage. So with that being said, let's take a look at his win path because he gave me some notes. So hopefully I don't mess these up. Some of my notes here. So if it's going slower than usual, guys, bear with me. So here we have Route 66 Fall GT. It was a golden ticket qualifier, as you can see in the top in the United States with about 40 players. Okay. So with that being said, oops, it's saying presentation error. Look, you see that, guys? It's upset because I went both places. Thanks, guys. All right, cool. So then we have so Steven ended up going 6 rounds, and this was 4-1. So let's go over his first game, and then I also have the notes up. Shout out to the lads in the chat. I see you guys. Keep it up for all the gas, the war bosses, and everything like that. I appreciate you guys. Whoa. So I really like that we can play with triple kill rigs, but what we're going to see as we look at other lists too, and just looking at kill rigs overall and their purpose and their duty in the game, is that you can play them as support, and they don't have to be the focal point of running 3 of them in your list for you to be able to run them. So that's actually quite important there. If this would stop not being weird and not loading. So shout out to that. Let's see. I'm just responding this. This normally doesn't happen. So oops. Let's see. Give it a little refresh. And then we go over. Oh, okay. That's what it was. Now I remember, kind of. Actually, Steven's first game, this guy doesn't show up on here. So let me actually look at his notes that he gave me in that way. Because it's not showing up. They don't have it on BCP. The player got dropped for some reason. So first player mission that he went into was Mission G, which is the ritual. The second part of that mission is the stalwart, and then it's hammer and anvil. He said he had Astra Militara matchup. It was the first guys really playing it. It really benefited him. It was a tank heavy list. It had a hard time moving around the board. It's actually very, very killy as well because he can just take out the kill rigs really early. Ultimately, the player just got removed from the tournament. Nobody really knows. He doesn't know why, but because Steven actually is pretty efficient at the game, and you're going against a guy who's not used to guard. Guard takes a bit of skill and niche because they don't have a bunch of different stacking, overlapping rules that are going to or combined arms that are really going to allow them to get the orcs off them when the orcs close the distance. They're not very forgiving. So if you're not playing guard effectively, then you get run over, which is why some people are like, well, I be guard all the time. And some people are like, I get annihilated. Huge ceiling, very low floor as well. So into the second game, though, for Steven, we have Tyranid. Oop. Why is it saying that now it doesn't want to show me in BCP when I have it? Oh, let's see. It should not be showing this problem. Let's see on screen. Well, I figured this out real quick while I was being weird. There we go. Now we're back. Yeah. All right. So for the Tyranids, we have Invasion Fleet. You guys got to be prepared for Tyranids. All right, because the people are going to start realizing that they're really good. A lot of the predators are gone, and if you're a really skilled player, you can make them work. A lot of guys like John Lennon are really promoted them, which other people are going to start picking up on them. So just know the Tyranids are getting familiar with them. All right. We do have ways to beat them, and Gaz is one of those tools that helps us beat them. So let's take a look real quick, and I also have notes for this matchup. So we have this was Mission round 2, it was Purge the Foe, Smoke and Mirrors, and Tipping Point. So, of course, remember Purge the Foe, MSU units getting killed more. You're going to help offset the score there. So sometimes it really hurts for Orks, but when you go against Tyranids, it can matter. So let's see what the list was to see if they have enough small units to help us. So we have Death Leaper. There's something we can kill right there. Hive Tyrant, Winged Hive Tyrant, Gargoyles, Hormagaunts, Biovores, 2 Exocrines, 2 Harlspecs. So cheap for 125 points, guys. Triple Lictors, and then double Tyrannofex. Very devastating sort of list, typically, if you're an Orc player and you're not running triple kill rigs, right? The fact that you have auto-hitting last cannons, so you actually have some sort of shooting to close the distance on these, let's say, even Lictors, where you can shoot Lictors away because they have fight first, and you don't want to be throwing away Orc units there and then getting precision out of your units because we have soft units. You actually have shooting options, where your kill rigs themselves can just charge these Lictors if they get a chance. You have multitude of B-Snagga boys, of course, and Beast Boss boys that are actually used to destroy these Harlspecs and trade them out, or these Tyrannofexes. Gaz can just punch right through them. I'm having games where people are like 5 up feeling pain, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, here comes Gaz with his unit, or the Beast Boss right next to him. Of course, you can drop Worth boys towers into them and even damage him a little bit. 2 units of gargoyles. Be aware that these gargoyles are very tricky. The better the player, the more effective he is with his gargoyles. For example, if they want to move block you, they'll put them in reserve. They'll come down from their deep strike, but they'll shoot, and then they'll move after they shoot, so they get 6 inches closer to you, and then act as a response move to you, and then start to move block you on their turn. So keep that in mind, that they can actually do that to you. Of course, they can't move after they could rapid ingress in and get in your way, but just know that I'm saying, and when they move and reinforce on their turn, just because they come in somewhere 9 inches doesn't mean they're going to stay in those 9 inches away. So the better the Tyranid player, the more effective he can use these kind of shenanigan moves. So the notes from our boy was he had a mixed melee of big shooting bugs, of course. And of course, he does have the board control as well, because he could just kind of stay in the middle of the table. But because he had all the kill rigs and such, he mostly just targeted his units until he found a spot to really push with the kill rigs and get value. The big swing was when he popped one of those kill rigs and shooting and charged the beast snaggas that came out, and I was able to heroic. He was able to heroic with Gazgul. So pretty much the shot he heroic. I feel like heroic is very, very underutilized by Orc players. A lot of the time we don't want a heroic because the unit that does heroic just gets target to get punched up, right? If you're like, if you heroic with like a unit of knobs, there's a good chance those knobs might actually get punched out by whatever charge. So keep in mind that Gaz is really good for heroic, and you can use it kind of as bait. It does take you to be aware. So yeah, and then he pretty much tanked it with the wall, and he slingshot Gaz to his back line and pushing him off the field. You got to play very aggressive when you're playing into Tyranids, I would say, as well. If you let them sit back on some missions where they can sit back, Persia Foe's not one of them. They're necessarily sitting back, because you can play very slowly, right? You can just go for one objective, hold your home, and then kill somebody. Just hope to get more from kill more, instead of actually trying to spread all over the field. Yet, when it is time to go, like he said, that's how you really push through them and pressure them, because they're really trying to sit back and just control the table and score you. There's some things thinking similar to you, where Tyranid players are expecting to lose a lot of models and die, but they're trading out for points of attrition. So you got to keep those points up and play, intelligently. Luckily, this list with triple kill rigs give you the combined arm aspect, guys. Something that a lot of the time Orcs list didn't have, especially when they're lacking kill rigs, right? Before the changes in Pry, like I was saying, where most people were saying kill rigs are going to come to play. The real thing that's underslept on is you get shooting. You get a bunch of shooting. Shout out to my boy Kevin, homie. Then we have, because Kevin, we're going to talk about you today, my friend, you little menace to society. All right, so we have, and shout out to Murder Mouth. How much, if any percent, can a flavor list be? Okay. Fair question. It depends on how competitive you want to be, right? But I would say, maybe like 15-20% of your list can be, depends on how bad the list is, right? I would say. But shout out to you, Murder Muff. So let me look at his next matchup. So his next matchup in round 4, we have, and I actually have his notes on this. So round 4, he went into Astra Militarum. Now, this was the game he actually lost. And this was actually against one of his friends. This was Mission A, which is oh, by the way, round 3 was Scorched Earth. Did I skip that? Because I want to make sure I messed that up. Doing round 2. Round 3. Sorry, guys. I have more notes. Against the Tyranids, it was actually Scorched Earth. Did I lie? Yes, I did lie. See, I lied earlier. I'm glad I caught that. Round 2 was against Purge the Foe, which was also against Tyranid. See, that's how I almost messed it up. Boom, caught myself. Heck yeah, guys. So round 3, he also had a Tyranid matchup, but this one was on Scorched Earth, and this one was Crusher Stampede. Boom, I almost jumped ahead. Caught myself. We do this live, boys. We do this live. Bear with me. All right, so round 3. Round 3, like I said, it was Mission P, which is Purge the Scorched Earth, Inspired Leader, and Crucible of Battle. Okay, so let's take a look at this Crusher Stampede list. I think Crusher Stampede lists are super cool. I own Tyranids as an army as well. I only own it because I want to have monsters, as I already have enough Orc bodies, right? So we have a Death Leaper, Neural Tyrant, Biovore, double Exocrines, a Hierophant, 2 Lictors, two Maliceptors, a Psychophage, and then a Zoanthrope. So you're looking at this gate and you're like, a Hydrophant. That must be a meme. Well, dude, people think Stompa's a meme and they mess you up. Sometimes go 4-1 at tournaments, sometimes win RTT, stuff like that. Hierophant can be legit with this devastating damage. And remember, Crusher Stampede gives you the ability to get +1 to hit when these guys get hurt, and I believe they can even get +1 to wound. So you have a bunch of Lictors, Maliceptors to hold the line into here. A Psychophage will not effectively die for anything for 95 points with a good trade. You have a few Zoanthropes to actually shoot down the 3 field to assist with that. And then you have the Neural Tyrant, who even makes them shoot even better also. And he makes the Shadow of the War better. So it's actually not see, he's saying it was not a good joke. Boom. Exactly. It was, you could look at an Orc Stompa list and be like, that's the trash. And then you actually lose to that. But this is like the inverse. You're actually playing against the Tyranid Stompa equivalent here, but they have Exocrines, which means they can shoot even better. These lone ops that are going to get fight first, and they're going to be chilling in the backfield, and the Maliceptors that are really, really annoying for Orcs to deal with. Which the fact that they have 4-up invuln, -1 to hit, and they can pop a 5-up Feel No Pain. Not in Crusher, they can't pop a 5-up Feel No Pain, but just typically Invasion Fleet, you're thinking about that, right, as well. So as much as this looks like a meme list, it really much wasn't. Steven actually sent notes for this one as well, and he's in chat. So he said Mission P, and like I said, Scorched Earth. This one was tough. He put the Bile Titan on the center objective. I wish I could get my Stompa to the center objective and not be scared. He touched the terrain on both sides, and it was able to kill anything he wanted. So because, guys, he's Titanic, if he just simply touches terrain, he can now look over and through it. And because the Bile Titan is so silly tall like Big Bug, like in the Space Marine 2 game, shout out to the guy who actually played this, Cooper, because he's been playing Space Marine 2 too much. He's able to shoot everything. So he said, my plan was to ignore the Titan and take out his scoring. Each round, the Titan killed something, and I pressed the rest of the board. It was a close game. So shout out to Cooper for making this a close game, because you would think it was a meme, but you have triple kill rigs, beast bosses, and Gaz, and he was still scared of this thing just because of this thing's killing potential and devastation. So I really love to see that. And Scorched Earth, also, you got to know that Scorched Earth, you got to play multiple missions, because if you're table too early, you can start to burn objectives and score even heavier. So shout out to that, and bring out the Gargantuan Squigoths. That's perfect, right? That's exactly what you want to bring on in that case, Gargantuan Squigoth. So next we have his round 4 matchup, which was Astra Militarum. Which Steven said that this was actually his homie, his friend, someone that he practices into. And so not only is this, and this is when I talk about this Astra Militarum matchup, guys, this is specifically what I talk about. Not that it's a friend, but that you are somewhat equivalent players, maybe one slightly better than the other, vice versa. But the fact that they're familiar with your list, or that they understand how to play their list really well, makes the matchup much harder. And that's what happened in this case, where Brian understood our boys' list very well and was like, okay, I have to, Steven's been telling me how it works, kind of, I know what it can do, therefore I'm going to do exactly what I can against it. And Brian ended up coming with a good battle plan. We're going to look at the notes real quick, but let's look at the list, because you have to be aware of what Astra Militarum kind of doing here. And I have a little bit of notes, and I kind of want to pull up some things that I think other people are sleeping on when they talk about Astra Militarum. Like, they always want to talk about just the Aquilons and everything, all the corny stuff, but there's reasons and compounding factors that hold the line for Astra Militarum while these broken units flip in. They're like Bulgrin and whatever, right? They're stacked upon the foundation of something else within Astra Militarum, and we're going to show that off. So we have a Militarum Tempestus Command Squad, another Tempestus Command Squad, and a third Tempestus Command Squad. These guys just drop with Scions and really boost their shooting potential. Scions get rerolls so they can shoot as well. So these guys are like their literally shock assault troops. I own a full Tempestus Scion army. So in my heart, I actually really think this is awesome. When you're an Orc player and you're dealing with this, you're like, that's pretty kind of annoying because tanks can pop my vehicles pretty effectively and then these turds can drop and shoot me, right? So it's kind of funny that it's both sides of my face. So we have a platoon command squad, 2 Primaris Psychers, and then Iron Hand Stracking. Before I move forward, I want to show these characters off so you can keep these in mind as you're looking over this list. So Iron Hand Stracking, you can think of it as a meme, but guys like Morty and Glory, which is one of the prime leaders of the Astra Militarum player base, whether they're competitive or not, they all like him, is that he loves Iron Hand Stracking. And that's because if you have this first wave of Catachans, which are going to scout 6, there'd be a whole bunch of bodies of 20 models, and they're not really that they're pretty cheap and they're not really that easy to kill, as we'll look at in a second. Having a character within this unit, similar to how we have Zogrog with our Grots, right? It makes it so you're like, oh, you think you're just gonna walk up in here with like a 5-man unit of intercessors? Yeah, right. You're gonna come up here with flash kits and just punch me up? No, you're not, because something like Iron Hand Stracking really goes off. He also has anti-monster 4+, which is pretty cool and silly. He's 6 attacks, hits on 2, strength 6, -2, 2 attacks, really good into Orks. Also gives the unit lethals, and then he can re-rolls the charges, I believe, and re-rolls a hit in the wound rolls you can see there. He has a little bit of guns too. His auto shotgun's not bad, into Orks, because it doesn't matter about the AP too much. So not only do they have him on the field, that's kind of along with this front line of annoying Catachan, but he also has Primaris Psychers, which is, you can see here, they can also go with the Catachans, which means that they can get a feel no pain. So if you're trying to clear them with, sometimes we talk about Orc grenades, right, where screens get in the way and you're trying to finish somebody off, or there's other units that can have devastating wound potential, they can have feel no pain of that. Not only that, but they can just simply pop it for a shooting phase for a 4-up invuln in that case too. So for against other armies, he's had other layers of durability here. So against Orcs, it's not as bad because we don't care about a 4-up invuln, but we do care about Iron Hand Stracking and such like that. So 2 little units that I think people forget about that. So we have 1, 2 10-man units of Catachans, followed by a 20-man unit of Catachans, another 10-man, another 10-man, 1, 2 units of Tempestus Scions. These are full 10-man units for a flat 100 points. Pretty devastating when you stick the characters on there. So he has 3 of those to go. Oh, no. 2, 3. No, he does have 3. 3 of those bricks, and then he has 2 5-man units of Tempestus Command Squad. So I think he made the guy the Warlord. Did he make him a Lord so they can be battle line or what? Yeah, he did. Okay. So yeah, because that's what caught me off guard for a second. Definitely, you have to make them the Warlord, Tempestus Commander, so you can have these guys as battle line. Kind of cool, right? Imagine if you can do that with Grots or something. Make Zod the Commander. So then you have Atalan, 1, 2, 3 units of Atalan Rough Riders. These guys hit hard. They have like Melta Lances. You definitely got to be worried about them. And I believe they can even come back to life when you spend CP, because they have the not battle line keyword, but whatever the regiment keyword, I believe. So we have, and then we have 1, 2, 3. No, 2. It was 2. 1, 2 units of Death Core Riders. So they don't hit as hard, but they're a little bit more durable. And you still have to be aware of them because, of course, their hooves, their mounts hit, and the guys on top hit. A unit Scout Sentinels, and then, of course, everybody knows the menace of the meta, 3 10-man units of the Tempestus Aquilons. So this is a very hard to get hands-on type of unit, yet they're choosing their interactions with you. Yes, and Steven confirms 2 CP, you can bring those guys back. So that means you're killing them 4 units of those riders, and you really don't want that, because when they charge into you, they're pretty devastating. Like, they can even put holes and mega knobs on the wall, so got to be careful for that. So you can see here he has all these, which is what ends up working against Steven, right? Now we're going to talk about Steven's notes, as I don't have to pre-presume. He could just tell us exactly what happened here, which is Catachan jail. So we're talking about jail, where people take wolf jail and stuff like that. All in all, if you can take a bunch of bodies and move up into Orcs faces where they have vehicles, right, kill rigs or trucks or multiple battle wagons, and Orcs can't usually pay for both infiltrators and scouts and everything like that. Even if you have scouts, you can be taken out by the enemy scouts if they go first, which is what happened here. He ended up going first. So the player knew what to do. He made a line of Catachan across the table. He went first, walked out in the open, then there was a layer of cavalry behind him, and then, of course, the guys can actually drop down from reserve and start choosing their interactions and killing you as well. He was taking fixed, and he was auto scoring 36 from engage and homers or locust, and locust. because they were 3-inch deep strike is impossible to screen out. It was a good game, but the jail sucked. So all in all, you got to be aware of that's kind of how they're going to work too. People understand that if I can play the game without interacting with you or as little as possible, like uppy downy shenanigans or putting you in jail and then scoring over my points as much as possible without having to, pull cards and have random variables, they're going to do that. So that's definitely a good move. By Brian Moody, that's how you beat someone who's doing really well, or in general, just try to make it to undefeated records, right? Take variables out. It's not that they can't handle having more variables involved. It's that they want assured outcomes. It kind of sucks and feels bad though to have to deal with a 3-inch deep strike, to be honest. I don't really like it. You guys know that. Then we go into his game 5. So we go into his game 5. And also round 4 was taking hold, raise banners and tipping points for mission A. I almost messed that up. Got that though. Then we have game 5, which he was against. I almost messed that up. Gray Knights. Oh, I know. I love me some Gray Knights. Not kidding. I'm just kidding. I love me to crump some Gray Knights. So we have Brotherhood Champion, Brotherhood Librarian, Kaldor Drago, a unit of Terminators, a nice big brick, and then a big unit of Striker squads. Don't usually see that. Pretty cool. A Razorback, a Venerable Dread Knight, 2 Nemesis Dread Knights, a Paladin squad, but it looks like it's just a 5-man unit, and then a Purgation squad. So this list is on the cusp of being really effective, in my opinion. Like, you are going to see a lot of these things on the top tier list, but some of these things you won't see. So you usually won't see a big brick of strike squads. You won't see a Razorback and the Ven Dread, but you'll see multiple Dread Knights, and I expect you'll see more Paladins as time goes on. I know people use Terminators, as you can see here, but I do think Paladins are more effective. You have Kaldor Drago for the pretty much assured deep strike, as he can come in from 6 inches. Librarian to do mortal wounds, and then the Brotherhood Champion for pretty much acts as the captain, right? So for the notes for this one, as he said this, it was Mission I. So Mission I is Burden of Trust, a prepared position, and search and destroy as the deployment. So it was this was difficult because he only played Grey Knights once with their movement shenanigans. I can actually show you that real quick. I think I have it up here. I should have had it up here. So here we have the Paladin squad. They get -1 to wound if they're being targeted. I make sure I have it on screen. You can see. Yep. So they -1 to be targeted, but what is really annoying is if missed of Deimos. So if you're not used to Grey Knights, this is very important that you understand this, and even if you don't play them, you know what this is. So it's in your opponent's movement phase just after a unit ends in normal fallback, advance, or move is 1 Grey Knights unit that's within 9 of the enemy unit. You can move up to D6, or you can jump back up into deep strikes. That's very, very potent and annoying when you're dealing with them. They also have a enhancement on their Dread Knight characters, typically, where if you target them for shooting, then they can also go into deep strike too. But you have to be aware of that if you're trying to target something like a brick of Terminators or a brick of Paladins, that they're going to pick themselves up. But the way that Steven handled it was that he was setting up multiple units that could charge him. He was setting multiple of his own units that can charge multiple units of the Grey Knights. And the order of which you start moving your models to bait that stratagem is really how you deal with that. So, for example, if you actually want to charge, let's say the Purgation squad, right? But you tempt them saying, hey, I'm going to charge your 5-man unit or Paladins with gas, right? There's a chance that he might try to give up his Paladins or have the Paladins, tank it just to keep the Purgation squad away, which means you're going to move gas first, and then maybe you're just going to just stand there and then move only 9 inches, slightly over 9 inches away, but then you'll pop here we go on that unit, and then you'll attempt a 7-inch charge. So then he won't even be able to use his Mr. Deimos, and then you just counteracted him and all. So there's ways you can get around it, and you have to consider it, but you have to be, have multiple layers to your things that you can do. And he said, well, one of the game was the Storm Boys dropped to the backfield, started doing second get dairies. They were the MVP. I would also like to say that having Dread kill rigs means that you can actually shoot stuff like Dread Knights because they have low toughness and good armor saves, and but typically they have nothing to threaten. Orks have nothing to threaten them with. So the fact that you actually end up have something means they have to play even a little bit better and be a little bit more respectful. So I really like to see that. So shout out to him that one. And then last but certainly not least is his last game where he went into Josh Stuart. and this was the Chaos Demons. He called it Fatty and Friends. I think demons you need to be aware of too. A lot of people have these armies on the shelves, nice and dusty. Who doesn't want to play with just the least amount of units as possible and just throw a bunch of big monsters on the field and start getting stuck in 40k and going to events? So for round 6, this was Linchpin, Fog of War, and Tipping Point. So Fog of War, you do have to consider that they're going to put everything on the field and maybe pick it up anyways, but they can just pick up stuff off the field anyways because they're demons. So it's not that big of a deal. For you, it could be because you can fake them out and then act like you're filling up the field and then decide, hey, I'm just going to go into reserve. But let's look at the list real quick. You typically don't have to with a triple kill rig list. Pretty linear what you're trying to do with the kill rig list, right? You're just trying to run them over. So we have Be'lakor, a great and clean with endless gift, Keeper of Secrets, another Keeper of Secrets, and then a third Keeper of Secrets, a Changeling, and then the Mask of Slanesh. We have Plague Bears, 2 units of those. You guys have sticky objectives, more durable than you expect. They do a 5 up invul, and they have 2 wounds, and their toughness 5. So be aware of them. You do have 2 units of Flamers, and that's it. Very, very thick and heavy. But guess what? Having Gaz and an aura of lethals is devastating. And in this mission, which he would say was mission C, is this game unfortunately had a massive advantage due to terrain layout for the orc player. So Steven saying that he felt better. He effectively was able to funnel his demons to the center of the board, where he was able to stage, and he had nothing to take out the kill rigs, so you can kind of bully him with the kill rigs. He surrounded them, charged them on the wall, and of course you could just stack that. You're going to use Gaz's lethal ability, use Unbridled Carnage, use that on one of your units, and then even the other units still have reroll hits, so they're still wounding on lethals, still have the beast boss punches, still have Gaz itself. It's a super nasty counter. The fact that they can't pop your kill rigs means that you can choose to get the initiative on them and then be devastating. So shout out to Steven War for overcoming them demons, because demons are making a muck in the meta, and it's good that you crump them when you can because they make for good loot. So last tip and overall view from Steven, for those who were wondering, he said Gaz was a must. Gaz was his MVP and the most exceptional, important unit, except for Grey Knights. It's because Grey Knights can just miss the Deimos away from him. So that's kind of why. And he said, of course, Makari is amazing. The whole point is Makari. So he said, like we always talk about on the channel, or like I always try to push, even before kill rigs are 155, is that they just simply play all aspects of the game. You got to respect things in 40k that do more than just kill. The more you understand that as a novice or intermediate player, the more that you can get out of every single unit, especially as an orc player, because you are playing with a lot of trash, a lot of unreliable outcomes. Therefore, you got to make the most out of everything you have. And then he said he would do the whole switcheroo with his boys, where he would, move his truck with boys, have Grots get in, have the, boys get out, have the Grots get in behind that, keep the truck nice and loaded, keep your Grots up the field, moving up the field, jumping in the transport to the next turn they can move up and maybe take a objective. So shout out to Stephen Goodridge. Whoa, thank you for the notes. I really appreciated that. Hopefully the chat and everybody here did too. But now let's move on to the next list, which is Randy Brigham with his Green Tide. And of course, we all love a good Green Tide. And as I said, what I alluded to when we started the stream was, you're still going to see kill rigs even not on the War Horde list, and even if you're not running triple of them. So in this case, he still had 2 kill rigs. So I think you don't have to always go to 3 kill rigs. 2 is totally fine. As you can see, even War Horde is totally fine. And in another video I spoke about, when all the changes, I predicted, hey, you're going to see kill rigs and it's Green Tide. Here we go, Randy, watch the video. Just kidding. But Randy obviously understood that, as most players could understand that, is the effectiveness of giving boys +1 strength, potential to have lethals, shooting, staging potential, stuff like that. So let's take a look at Randy's list. And I also have a little bit of notes here, because the final round player that Randy went into is one of my buddies, Mr. Kevin Leonard. So Kevin actually gave me the tournament pack so we can give it a little peek at, and gave me some notes about at least their game. So we can understand this a little bit. So we have 3 Pain Boys, 3 War Bosses, 1 with Ruckus Warcaller, 1 with the Bloodthirsty Belligerents. Those are, Ruckus Warcaller isn't brought as often, but I still think it's pretty important, especially if you're trying to do late game activities, right, when your units are dwindled. Then you have a Weird Boy and a Zagrot Wartsnaga unit. So Zagrot Wartsnaga is usually kind of slept on in Green Tide, because you're like, I already have a lot of boys, I already have a lot of stuff. Well, imagine you're playing for just a faster unit of boys, and they're cheap in a different way, and they're meant to kind of just get in the way, and they can still not take up battle line slots. Not that you're going to run out, but in case you start to spam stuff, right? Really cool to have Zod on there. I like it. And you're scouting. You're getting to the field sooner because boys are really slow. And, you know, when you're outside of the jumping or you're not jumping out of a wagon, they're just kind of meandering up the field slowly. So we have 4 bricks of boys at their new point cost of 160 points. Love to see it. 1 big brick of flash kits. I think flash kits are very beneficial on a green tide list. They give you shooting. They have a similar cost and wound profile to the boys, so they have 160 points as well, but they're on knob bodies, so their different profiles go better into them. They have better armor saves, so a little bit useful, and they feel good on the wall, getting to other strength thresholds. I love to see it. 2 kill rigs because you're giving out the strength buffs. Notice, like I said in that video as well, my guys, you did not need to bring Beast Snagger boys and a Beast boss simply because you bring a kill rig. Randy just found the potential of just running it how it was. No Beast Snag is necessary because the kill rig itself is playing other phases that are more than just transporting, unlike something like a Chuck, which is really mostly just transporting and hoping to score, right? And then 2 Stormboy units, that's the key typically, right? 1 in reserves, 1 on the table, you know, or whatever you prefer. So let's take a look at this. Hold on, I got a couple of these windows up. Take a look at chat. What are you guys saying? Shout out to you. That list is beautiful. I noticed more Stormboys over Defcopters. Defcopters still not cheap enough. They're vehicles, my guy. So Stormboys, as you can check out the video of the units that I think people are using wrong, which Stormboys are one of those units, is that Stormboys don't always have to go into reserve, and typically Defcopters you do, but Stormboys, because they're infantry, means they can just simply move through terrain. Right, they're just simply moving up through terrain, and that makes them easier to maneuver. Smaller bases and staging locations that they take up. Defcopters just kind of get in the way still a little bit, right? But still good question. Still good question. I think, you know, Defcopters are totally fine. I just think that they're not as you know, and as reliable for scoring secondaries as Stormboys would be. So I'm just making sure I pull up Randy's thing, guys, because I had a bunch of things open. So let's look right here. So here's the tournament pack that my boy Kevin. So, you guys cannot see that at all. Can I pull that up? Oops, I had the wrong screen up. You guys see now? No, not really. Well, either way, this says Mission C layout linchpin Fog of War for round 1. Let's take a look at Randy's win pass. So Randy did only play 4 games out of 5. Typically, I don't do that, guys, but because I was able to get notes, because it was a unique list that I really wanted to show. And a lot of times, guys, when I do this, I'm looking to show off unique lists, right? If I just wanted to show you all the best lists, I might just show you 3 kill breaks. That's kind of boring. So I'm trying to bring you something fun and unique, and also to kind of give you more options in your list building and design, and reinforce some topics and ideas that we already talked about. So that's why I specifically chose this. If you don't like it, you know, you can come get your teeth knocked out. So let's look at his 4 list. And he said, since I had 3 indirect nurglings, I put those Stormboys in reserve. Yeah, I know that. I know you had, boy. I've had to deal with them. We'll talk about that in a bit. Don't worry, you sleepyhead. So we have, let's go into his first game. Like we said, it was Mission C, Linchpin, Fog of War. I like Linchpin for the most part. Tipping Point. So first matchup, he went into Adeptus Custodes. So we have Valerian and a Blade Champion. Valerian's a fun pick. A 4-man unit, 2 4-man units of Blade Guard, and then a 5-man unit of Blade Guard. Interesting that he had all spears, didn't go for any shields for the additional wounds, I guess. You know, that's nice for us as Orks because we do have damage 3 stuff. Not in this case, in this list, for Randy's list, but in this case in general. We have 2 Alaris Terminators, a Brick of Wardens, 1 unit of Vanatari and Gladius Grav Tank, and a Venerable Land Raider with Caladius Assassin and Inquisitor Draxus. So Inquisitor Draxus typically goes with the Guardians to give them rerolls and to use them for that. She boosts the unit into Xenos, especially Orks. Feels really nice. Wardens with their 4-up Feel No Pain, popping once for saves is really awesome. Yet the kill, you know, not the kill, sorry, we're talking about the Green Tide. The Green Tide isn't just about killing you, right? Gladius Grav Tank, having 1 is weird. It's kind of, you can see he just decided he wanted to bring a Land Raider. Not sure the effectiveness in the long term of what this list stands. I don't really give too much credence to a Land Raider. 2 Grav Tanks is just better, but really just having more Venatar would be better, right? If they could just drop more ingressing. So I don't give this list, you know, as the top of the Custodes meta, but be aware they're going to play in Custodes. When you're playing Green Tide, though, just understand, and of course, when you have the kill rigs, you can help shooting, but when you're playing Green Tide, you can now actually out OC these guys, just reroll wounds into them, just free volume. They don't have Armor of Contempt. You know, they do rely on the fact that they have to just close the distance and smash you. That's where having something like our boy. Oh, sorry, I'm a little zoomed out on this. Let me fix my screen. Oh, what did I do? I'll fix that later. But he did have something like Zagra, right? Having Zagra to run out with his grounds and act as a big old wall, because these guys don't typically have a lot of volume. If you touch objectives, though, be aware, because the Guardians can shoot you away if you start touching objectives. So don't sleep on that. But typically Zod, because he can move his ninth and move up the field and then get in front of them, use them as a big old net, like a fish net, to try to catch these Guardians and these Wardens as you can, and then counter punch with the boys and play the mission is really where you want it to be. It's easier said than done, because Custodes actually do have the proper profiles that just beat the crap out of an Ork Boy unit as well. So don't mess with that. Oop. Hold on, guys. I did something a little too on my own screen. See if we can fix it for me. There we go. It's a little better. Yeah. Okay. So be aware of Custodes. They can punch you out, but Green Tide is just one of those high skill ceiling armies that if you're running Green Tide, I already have a lot of potential on your board control and maneuverability and understanding of the game, which is something you really need to work on if you're choosing to play Green Tide. Then we have his second game, which is going into Chaos Knights. So we have, and then our Tyler Howells for gifting Wall Tactic membership. Whoa, Tyler, I appreciate you, homie. Very generous of you, and shout out to you in the chat for being active and asking questions. It really means a lot. Oh, Straw Hat Luffy got it. Yeah, Straw Hat. Show off. Let me get some war bosses in chat for our boy Tyler. First turn alive from under the wall, keeping from down under. Whoa! All right, so we have right here, we have a Chaos Knights list. We have a Night Rampager. Be expecting more Night Rampagers because of the point cost that these guys have. Just, that these Knights players keep getting, because they're not getting the results and wins that they want, or that they, might need, I guess, because they're not at the numbers that they should be at. They can fit a big knight on there, and they're typically going to do that and still bring you little baby dogs. So we have one big knight followed by 2 brigands, 6 carnivores, and then he went for allies. So he has 3 units of Nurglings, Beast of Nurgle. Actually, it looks like 4 units of Nurglings, 3 Poxbringers, 4 Nurgling Brooks, and the Beast of Nurgle. One thing to keep in mind is typically the allies, I think, in this position end up not doing him any favors, because when you do have more of these war dogs, they do have the volume to actually kill your Ork mobs and your Green Tide mobs, because the brigands have indirects. These guys have sweep attacks as well. They have moderate OC with big bases, so they're still respectable. You can play the mission on them, don't get me wrong, and you can punch them out with your war bosses, right? But there is such thing of them just not whiffing on the wound rolls and killing you, and still having enough stuff left over to just keep playing the mission, especially because their big boy's still around. That being said, because he picked allies, because he can't simply spam it all out, doesn't have enough shooting, it means that he just pretty much got swarmed up by the boys. And I shout out to him. Oop, that's just my face. Hey. So shout out to our boy Randy, because I want to put a score for getting an 87-point win there. So you can see it was his lowest of his score wins, because you do have to respect the Knights just a little bit in the beginning so they don't blow you away as you kind of stage up and move with the field. But then when it's go time and they get close enough, you want to them, you try to tear down as many as possible. And that point, it's about staying alive, keeping their bases, multiple of their bases off the objective as you can, and just keeping as many of yours on the objective as you can. So that was his biggest. So 98 points in the first game, 87 in the second. Oh, actually, I think I have the mission it was too, right? So we have mission E here for take and hold, prepare positions, and hammer and anvil. So he can prepare positions for a 6 of invul outside of the wall from the shooting. That's pretty nice. And then take and hold means you can spike scoring for 15 with the boys. So pretty nice on that. So his third mission, which we're about to look at right now, which is his third one, was mission K, which was Scorched Earth, Stalwart, and Search and Destroy. So Stalwart is actually that you can do actions with battle lines, as long as they're actually eligible to shoot, even if they're engaged in combat. Yes. So you can still do actions while you're engaged in combat as you're eligible to shoot. So your boys can do it with pistols. That would very much help you with a Green Tide. You can see he has Stalwart here, and he has Stalwarts on mission full round 4 we're going to look at. So shout out to Stalwart for Green Tide. I don't know if mission had this pack, like Randy knew that this wasn't a mission pack before I made the list, and it helped with the Green Tide, because that would help you. If 2 of those missions had Stalwart out of the 5 for a GT, man, that makes you really helps you want to play Green Tide. And then it was Search and Destroy. Okay, so Nice, can close the distance really easily across the battlefield. So let's take a look at his third game, which was into Chaos Demons. Oh, that's interesting considering his fourth round. So we have 1, 2, 3 Keepers of Secrets, and then a Shaleksi Hellbane. So this looks like a Slanesh list. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Demon Nets. These girls can hit. I believe they have Devastating Wounds. Kevin, if you're in there, let me know. And then a Plague Bearer unit. Of course, they have sticky objectives, and then a Soul Grinder. This one has Legion of Slanesh. Soul Grinders are highly respectable. They can shoot, they can fight, they have multiple profiles for fighting and for shooting. Shout out to the Soul Grinders. As for this Slanesh unit and the Slanesh list, very much about speed, but like we always know, Slanesh isn't really the most durable in response. So if you can actually outmaneuver this list or be willing to sacrifice one of your Zod units and one of your boys units, there's a chance that everything else in your list can kind of pick this apart. Of course, you can pop your Flash Kiss Lethals into these Keeper of Secrets to dwindle them. You still have kill rigs for this, but just know these guys are really, really fast for the most part, and they do hit pretty hard. They do have devastating on 6s, and they have a good volume of attacks. I believe they're only strength 4 minutes. That is kind of their weakness, I guess, going into boys. With that being said, though, and of course they're still only T3, so and yeah, that list was really bad into Randy's. Yeah, exactly. And they're strength 4, I believe, only, so they can't really hit that well, in my opinion. They put a bunch of volume. I think a non-experienced player, yeah, but this list is not what would actually bring fear into that green Tide list for the most part from Demons, just because it's like big missiles, and then even the leftover units are pretty easy to kill. Last, and then he ended up getting a 96.1 there. So shout out to Randy. And then last but not least, he went into the one game that he lost, and he did lose this game by 1 point. So he got 69 points here, and the person he lost to right here was the third place event placer, Kevin Leonard, who ended up getting a 70-point win here in round 4. So Kevin's like, dude, 1 point win right there. That was a 1 point difference in game for this one. That's why I want to cover this too, because if Randy would have won this one by that point, I'm sure he would have played into round 5. Because that must be devastating, heartbreaking, going on round 4, knowing that you're going to make it, and then losing by simply 1 point. But, it was a double-sided, feels good because my boy Kevin. So let's take a look at this list real quick, because we should talk about this, as I've alluded to this list so much on the channel, and no one really ever hears about it or knows about it. Because it's always just like on the peak or like on the cusp of doing well, and then it just falls off because other demons or other factions do better. Yet it finally shines. So let's take a look at this mono Nurgle poopy list, right? So we have Great Unclean One with the Endless Gift, followed by another Great Unclean One with nothing. We have 2 basic Great Unclean Ones, and then a Radagast. So that's 3 Unclean Ones and Radagast. That's 4 fat boys, one of them having the 4 Feel No Pain. Then we have 1 big brick of Nurglings, 2 units of Plague Bears. So these guys have sticky objective, 2 OC, like I said, 5 up invul. 2 units of Plague Drones. These units are slept on. I'll share their data sheet in a bit. And then we have 3 Soul Grinders, and that's it. The list is all Chungas. Now for these Soul Grinders, I don't think I pulled them up. But for the Soul Grinders, just know that these guys have indirect fire that has access to lethal, so it's shooting lethal indirect into you. So this can devastate you. It's damage 7 and strength 7 -1 2 damage, from what I remember. So, and then they have a cannon that's damage flat 3. They have a built-in 4 up invuln. So and they get when they're in the shadow, they get access to a 6 up Feel No Pain as well. So they have good durability and survivability alongside of that as well. And as for these Plague Drones, right? We have the Plague Drones here. So in the shooting phase, after this unit has shot, select 1 enemy unit that was hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Until the end of the turn, Nurgle Legionnaire Demonica units that target that attack can re-roll the wound roll. So this unit is very much simply for buffing. This unit runs around, it drops in and deep strikes 6 inches, 3 inches, 9 inches, whatever it can. It gives you a little poop squirting, and then it allows this demon player to get wound rerolls with his Great Unclean Ones. It allows Kevin to get wound rerolls with the Soul Grinders, so he has more reliable outcomes. Then we have Radagast. So Radagast is the name character, epic character, Great Unclean One. He has an aura to remove OC of -1. So obviously now your boys are -1 OC and an aura, and he has the potential to give a unit +1 damage that he can choose to give them to, right? So think about it. You're now getting sweep attacks that are multi-damage, that are re-rolling wounds because they got pooped on, and that's what Kevin distinctively did. He distinctively would use 2 fat boys on each boy unit. They do have moderate OC, so it is once you kill enough boys, you can take them off once they're -1. But when boys are max OC, they can just kind of take them out. And wait, let me take a look at what this mission was, because I should have pulled that out real quick because I have it right here. For round 4, remember, it was Terraforma, Stalwart, and Crucible. So Terraforma, you know, Orks don't typically like because you're not staying alive yet. Green Tide can, and Stalwart helps with their secondaries. Then you have Crucible Battle, that diagonal angling, but that doesn't really matter for this kind of list because remember, all of this is able, a lot of it is go uppy downy, so it's able to come down, it can drop within 6 of you. So typically these fat boys are typically slow and getting in the way, but they're going to rush a nesting doll, so they're going to drop fat boy 4 up, and then other guys are going to start dropping around him. They're going to be giving shadows, they're going to be giving buffs to each other and overlapping. They have their flamer attacks that they can do that chip boys away, so they very much had the potential to chip the boys away. A few notes here that Kevin said was that early on that he ended up using his Nurglings to throw them away to try to slow down rigs and units like that. That the kill rig was used, he just threw them up to do arrow denial, soul grinder in exchange. So Randy was able to take out, you know, soul grinders and play the mission, score very well. But ultimately he ended up taking it by that 1 point. You know, Kevin is very familiar with Orks, as he kind of plays Orks too sometimes, and he plays against me all the time. I don't use Green Tide into him. I've been using Green Tide a little bit, but shout out to him for getting that one. Because that's not an easy win or an easy game. Kevin's very proficient. I believe LEO ranking right now for this opponent was like 39 in the world, #1 demon. So even though it's only 4 games, that's why I covered it. Very niche, and this list was very, very freaking cool because Randy had a bunch of the new changes on his list, yet still stuck to the fundamentals. So let's go over Randy's list one more time. He has triple Pain Boy, triple War Boss, 1 with Orcus Warcaller, 1 with Bloodthirsty Belligerents. He brought a Zagron, love that, and then a Weird Boy, 1 truck, 4 bricks of boys, a Flashgate unit, a big brick of Gretchen, 2 kill rigs, and then 2 storm boys. So crazy to see someone not bring a small man unit of Gretchen. So shout out to that. And let's move on to the next list of Jasper Bisky. So Jasper Bisky brought a War Horde list, but this one was not a triple kill rig list. Let me erase some of these guys that I have open right now because I have a bunch of things open. So in this one, he has no triple kill rigging. Let's see if I can make this closer because boys. No, what did I do? Oh, there we go. Cool. All right, so for this one, he has a beast boss with Follow Me Lads, another beast boss, Gazgul Thraka, triple war bosses, 2 20-man units of beast snacker boys. Whoa, that's what I'm talking about, boys. I've said it multiple times in that video that I alluded to as well when I talked about the changes that were to come. I said, now that beast snacker boys have dropped under 100 points, there's a chance you bring them in 20-man units, you bring them around gas, and you have these crazy anti-monster missiles all over the field that if you don't have AOC and a 2 of armor save, these guys are blending you to pieces on War Horde. He has 2 of these dynamic missiles, but he doesn't have them in actually any he doesn't have them in any kill rigs, right? Because they can't, the hunter rig sucks, so he just went for battle wagons, and kill rigs can't hold 20. 2 trucks, 2 battle wagons, both with zap guns and a hard case. I think zap guns just worth it because it does more damage potential and a quick dice roll. 1 Gretchen unit, 2 mega knobs with twin kill saws, 3 5-man units of knobs, and then 2 units of storm boys. And the knobs had power claws. They should have power claws at least. And let's take a look at his path to victory. So I don't actually have notes, so this one will go a little bit faster because I don't know. And also let me point out where this was. Sorry, I should have pulled out. Oh, it was in New York. Duh. Well, that wasn't very wise of me. Let me pretend I didn't do that. All right, so then we go into his first matchup with this Astra Minotaur. We have Deathcore Marshal, Primary Psyker, Tank Commander, Tank Commander. Tank Commanders are cool because now they give themselves orders. Like we said earlier, the Psykers give a 4-up invuln to shooting, and they give a 5/4 up feel no pain to mortal wounds. Then we have Catachans, a Cadian Shock Trooper unit, another Catachan unit, another Catachan unit. Okay, so he has 5 Catachan units, a Deathcore Creed, 2 Deathcore Creed units, and then a Catachan unit. Sorry, guys. Tongue twisted there. A Basculus, Earthshaker Carriage Battery, a Rogel Dorn, a pair of Rogel Dorns, 2 Tempest Scion units, and a Caladius Assassin. So this one doesn't have potency that we've seen in some Astromilitarum lists that are slowly starting to go towards, I'm going to bring a bunch of Catachans, get in your face, maybe some tanks, maybe some horses behind that, and then drop a bunch of deep striking units to devastate you with shooting. We're not seeing that right now. This is one of the little bit older of archetypes. Doesn't have all the screens to keep you off him if you're an Orc player. But you do got to be aware of the devastation because the Rogodorns are not anything to joke at with even your battle wagons. Of course, the tank commanders give themselves to orders means they can devastate you as well. Yeah, someday the chopper will rise, right? When GW gives incentive for why they could. You can give me in chat what you think the big choppers would need to be worth taking over a power claw. So then we have Chaos Space Marines. We have a Chaos Lord. Oh, these guys are what? Veterans of the Long War. So their version of like Oath, I believe. So then we have a Chaos Lord, Cypher. Cypher is cool. He makes you pay the additional CP when you're in range of him. That's really potent. That's cool for them. Fabius Bio can blank damage. He gives a rune an additional toughness, and he can rise from the dead. And then we have Horon Blackheart, which he's pretty much just like a deep strike, I believe, like missiling jumping in unit. So this is really thematic. He ended up going with like veterans of the Long War, and he brought actual veterans. He has a cultist mob, legionnaires, 2 chaos rhinos, a biker unit. This biker unit can come up on and off the field, kind of like the Leeds Voltan one. It's kind of cool. 3 predator destructors, all with auto cannons for that just volume of shots with multiple damage, and they get more AP. They're pretty cheap for 140 points. A big brick of Chosen, a small unit of Chosen, 2 units of Obliterators. Be aware of the Obliterators. They do have short range, but they can choose to do indirect and pop stuff like truck very reliably. I guess 2 guys couldn't do it really reliably, at least not unless they were like in a shooting detachment or given shooting buffs and like an aura. Let's say they're next to a Hellbrute or something, and then they can get more rerolls. But in this detachment, maybe not. Maybe along where they could, but that's neither here or there. They do have good shooting. They do have possible to do indirect once per game, and they have just straight up on fire. They also don't die really easily to fighting. Then we have 2 units of Noise Marines. I think it's cool that they're allied. I think it's kind of cool that they're allied, right? So yeah, this seems more like a little bit of a thematic list, but I still like to see it. Then we go into his third game, which are Grey Knights. So we have Wielders of the Flame. Oh, that doesn't mean anything. I don't know why I read that. So we have a Brotherhood Librarian, a Grandmaster with the Sigil, and then Kaldor Drago, a 5-man unit of Terminators, 3 units of Strike Marines, 3 Dread Knights, and then a big brick of Paladins. So this is definitely not an easy one to deal with. This was actually his third game where he ended up losing this one. So let me show you something that I feel like you should know is that Paladins are something I personally think that more Grey Knight players will slowly start jumping into. The fact that you can ingress these guys 3 inches away from people is devastating, right? It's really, really hard to screen. Even if it's a 10-man unit, you can actually find a way to get these guys where you need them to be. They're -1 to wound, but the really big annoying thing is if you're an Orc player is that they did miss the demos, that if you move within 9 inches of them, they can either do a reactive move or they can go back in a deep strike. Means it's really hard to get an engagement range with. And these guys have good volume of shooting. They can ignore modifiers when they're led by the character as well. Because I think one of the characters gives them that, which one, I'm not sure which one, but typically you put them on there. And then they help benefit the Dread Knight because this Paladin squad is going to take a lot to invest to kill them. They can have that multiple OC. They can get a 2 OC with their banner guy. And like I said, they're hard to actually get engaged with while the rest of the Dread Knights fill up the field. And then Strike Marines can just move up and around, scoring, go up and down later in the game if you want, sticky objective, stuff like that. So this list is something that is harder to interact with and deal with than you would expect. Having maybe, like I said before, having a bunch of kill rigs, you can at least shoot rigs at them, but you can't reliably kill them. And the one thing that the Grey Knights don't do is that they can't really kill wagons and kill rigs that effectively, but they can choose where they interact with everything else and kill your scoring units. They can score secret missions kind of well. Like I said, if the list is well built, which in my opinion, a well-built Grey Knight list is a bunch of Paladins, not a bunch of Paladins, a brick of Paladins usually, and a bunch of Dread Knights, I think that sort of list has gives Orks a hard time unless they're playing a particular archetype. Otherwise, the rest of their list can kind of just jump around, shoot. They can put paladins in your way and selectively charge stuff or selectively shoot things. And then when you try to react to get into combat with anything, they run away. And because it's a small amount of units and most of them want to shoot, they can kind of choose where they play so they don't interact with you. So it's really, really annoying. So no shame in there. If you're playing against a really good Grey Knight player, he knows how to take advantage of that. So then we have his fourth matchup, which was against Adeptus Mechanicus. So we have the Rad Zone Corps. They're actually really not that bad, but they're a little bit more niche, right? Because how often do you see, Adeptus Mechanicus? And shout out to the chat. They're pretty much just saying that if Big Choppas had like 4 attacks or 4 attacks maybe, or maybe innately hit on 2s, that you would bring them. Or if they had twin linked, twin link would be interesting, right? -1 AP is just an issue. We're just tired of having all -1 AP, right? But yeah, it would take a lot to consider. So we have Belisarius Call, 2 Marshals, 2 Manipulus, two Techno Archaeologists, 1, 2, 3 Rangers, 2 Vanguards, 2 Dune Riders, 2 Cataphract Breachers, 1 Sterilizer, 2 Cerberus Raiders, and 2 Infiltrators. So this is what you should expect when you run into AdMac, of just a lot of little bodies. These guys can take up the field, especially with those Rad Corps. Cataphract Breachers can be spiked to shoot better with Belisarius Cole. I do think there's more devastating shooting in Adeptus Mechanicus list. I don't think they have it on here, the vehicle, but they have something like a Devastator's kind of vehicle that they have. They can just have a huge volume, multi-damage profiles and volume. That can be quite annoying. The Cerberus Raiders getting in the way of move blocking. Yeah, running into Orks, and all of these little things. You really can just run this kind of list over. It takes certain amount of bodies, which I don't think this guy necessarily has, with just enough of these Rangers. Everything else is pretty soft. It's hard to say. I just don't think Adeptus Mechanicus have the same tools that something like Adeptus Astra Militarum does to really offset Orks. They do have like anti-infantry 4+ weapons and volume of fire, so they can kill certain archetypes, like if you have a bunch of Grots and stuff like that. But I really don't know, because I don't have reps into them yet, if this really gives you that much of a hard time. I'm gonna assume not as much as the AdMech player would typically hope. Jasper got 84.1 there. And then last but not least, we have World Eaters. So World Eaters, like I always say, if you're playing War Horde, World Eaters are a much easier matchup. If you're playing Bully Boys, it's still a pretty decent matchup. And then anything outside of that, they can be kind of difficult because their speed, their punching potential, their staging potential, and the fact that you're kind of meeting them on one phase usually. So we have Angron, a Lord on Juggernaut, and the Master of Indirect Combat with the Master of Execution and Berserker Glaive. So of course he gets fight first, then he wants to be stuck on some Corn Berserker so he can kind of blood surge into you. The World Juggernauts are there so he can go alongside those 8-bound. 2 Jackals for sticky objective. 1 Rhino for that Master of Indirect Combat. 3 8-bound has 3-man units. I really like that. They have auras of -1. Reroll once to wound for 6 inches. Really nice for staging. I think they punch really decent. Well, I don't think you need a lot of bricks of 8-bound. 1 big brick of 8-bound from the Exalted is cool. A Chaos Spawn unit, and then a Carnivore. It's one of those things. Carnivores are right if you're going to bring them, like, let's just say you're going to ingress them in. I'm almost more inclined to bring like a Mauler Fiend, but then he really only goes off if you can blood something, so you don't have any shooting on this list. World Eaters are just a little bit too expensive right now, where they're like right on the cusp where certain matchups, if I can missile to you and beat you up, it's cool. But for Orks, we can fight on death, and we can actually kind of overcome these things with good volume. If you're bringing Gaz and Beast Snagger Boys and stuff like that, you're going to tear through Angron. So as we can see here, he has a Beast Balls, 2 Beast Bosses, and 2 big bricks of 20 boys, and then Gaz. So propping Unbridled Carnage here, and you're going to choose through Gaz when it's this. Angron when it's his time to actually go into you, and then you can kind of just fight the rest of the list too. Plus, you have Wagons, so he can't like pop the Wagons and then take everything out with shooting. You do have to be aware, of course, of getting popped, right? And then something tagging you after it pops and consolidates into you and can't kill you. But that's where it's kind of like, well, 20 Snagga Boys are still 20 Snagga Boys, and they're still re-rolling the hit. And the Beast Boss is still there. He can't get dev wounds anymore. But that's where having redundancy helps you, and having gas to come and swing into that after he does it. Just know that that's the weakness if you have battle wagons, is when someone consolidates into you. after that, because you don't get your dev potential, you don't get the charge, stuff like that. And then you have 3 5-man units of knobs, which really helps with all those 8 bounds. Those 3 little man units of 8 bounds, countercharge them with knobs, or if you're going into the Master of Indirect Combat and the Zerkers, you fight on death there, and it really helps you. So with that one, he ended up getting a 66-point win, because, you know, it's really like a lot of trading and you're just trying to fight and duke it out to the death with them. If Angron ends up coming back and, you know, becomes a more devastating and harder matchup. But love to see it. All the trucks, multiple wagons, I'm sure, and having knobs to go there and trade out. Very elite list though, right, guys? He only has a couple missiles here to get downfield and do what he's got to do. He has a couple small war boss units, and then just gas, and then 2 big bricks of snaggers with beast bosses and wagons right next to him, stage up in the middle of the battlefield. So whoa, for Jasper Beast, because that's an awesome sort of list to have out there. I really love to see the changes and to modifications to grow with the changes to points, and having 2 big 20-man units of Beast Snaggle Boys on that list. So with that being said, thanks everybody for being here. Check out our dice in the description for 25% off for this month, which is about to be over, because it helps us out greatly. And check us out tomorrow for our Orktober hobby / community stream, where we're going to show off the Great WAAAGH. And the Great WAAAGH is not my army, it's everybody's army and my army, but everybody's army. So check that out. We're gonna have a bunch of different armies on display and be showing off too, so that should be really cool. And shout out to everybody who participated in that. And of course, leave a like and subscribe, because even though the Orks were struggling, doesn't mean the channel should have to, right? Haha. So shout out to everybody that helped and supported. It means a lot to us, to Murdermouth, to Tyler Howells, to everybody else. So you guys, whatever you're gonna do, wherever you're gonna be, just know Orks are in a great place to be. You can play Dreadmom, you can play Bully Boys, you can play War Horde, you can play Green Tide. I very much feel like all 4 of those are really much in play, so you should be happy as an Ork player for that reason. If you don't like spamming those same data sheets over and over again, simply play War Horde. They can just, you know, play multiple different kind of units, and everybody just benefits as an Ork from getting sustains built in, and just some of the stratagems that War Horde has. Just know that we go over these not because I want to encourage you to copy these lists, or to think that you have to rise to this sort of expertise with Orks, but because I want you to get ideas and get reinforced in the ideas that we show on here, and understand that there are very effective ways to play, and then there's ways that you incorporate the most effective units into your list and still get good results in casual games and with your friends, and it doesn't feel so potent. So just know that this is more for tips and guidance, and just to get a big view of the meta and get more context for everything. This isn't for you guys to copy and paste. You know, I don't really promote that, as it kind of takes away from a list ability itself as an Ork player. So with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind, is to check out the dice in the description, and don't cross our wall, because we'll dock it.